Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover this morning. We've got some comments from viewers after yesterday's broadcast, one that came during the broadcast that I missed that I wanted to get to. So we will cover those. We also have a lot about Iran, a couple of kind of one-off primaries in Illinois that we'll talk about. And, of course, it was big news for the left-wing media. The National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent resigned over the Iran war. We're going to tell you about that. But first, viewer comments. Carol writes in, can you, someone, anyone, direct me to Chuck Schumer's outrage at the rising gas prices that started back in 2021? He's all over TV now, pointing out how much they've gone up since Iran. But I just don't remember any outrage when they went up way higher over Biden's ban on drilling, etc. I join the majority in preferring to pay a bit more now than to be on the receiving end of a nuclear bomb. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I've been a longtime fan of President Trump, but I think he's headed to the same fate as Biden and needs to step aside, not down, before he puts us into World War III by choosing to be the puppet of Netanyahu. Trump is contradicting himself on many issues, like Epstein and no more endless wars. He needs to let Congress and therefore the American people back in control of their fate. Frank, I'm really interested in your opinion. I'm as big a fan of Trump's core mission statement as you are, but I'm beginning to wake up to the consequences of him destroying and taking over countries without the Congress. Couple things to dissect there. I do not agree with the statement that he is choosing to be a puppet of Netanyahu. I think that's more of a kind of a talking point from the left. I would say that. I don't believe we are in any way, shape, or form headed into World War III. I will say, if you want this, and I'm just trying to see, I'm sorry, I'm reading it again as we kind of go here. Congress, I think if Congress would have been left to decide whether or not we bombed the compound that got 40 plus Iranian leaders, I don't think that would have happened. I don't think the war would effectively been run by a Congress that can't, proves daily that they can't deliver. But I don't, again, taking over countries, I'm not sure, I mean, I guess Venezuela or maybe Cuba, what he was saying. I'm not sure, but I'll pose that question. I'm not sure what you mean by that, I should say. I guess perhaps you're talking about Venezuela destroying, I guess Iran. A lot of questions there, kind of tough to do back and forth. But this came in, oh wow, this came in early this morning. I thought it was in the afternoon. Thank you for sending it. I guess I'd need a little more background, but no, I don't agree with this idea that he's the puppet of Netanyahu. I understand that there's many on kind of the right that are upset with Trump getting involved in Iran. The media's been running with that. So I know there are some, but I would pose that question to viewers. Your thoughts on it, what the viewer had to say. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. As I was currently watching Fox Live Now at the time of this text and had been listening to the rhetoric and outright lies of Democrats regarding fraud in Medicare and Medicaid, the Democrat bums got up and shamelessly lied, knowing full well that the fake news organizations would quote what they said as fact. I don't drink anymore, but still found myself yelling at the TV with vigor. An expletive-laden phraseology directed at the hateful, bigoted, hypocritical, rudderless Democrat speakers. They make me so mad I can't help myself. Well, thank you very much. All right, thank you for all the comments. Couple quick updates. Iran's Minister of Intelligence, Asmail Khatib, was killed overnight in a precision strike, according to a senior Israeli official. Khatib was responsible for overseeing Iran's entire global terror apparatus, including sleeper cells and locations around the world. His targeting was a joint U.S. and Israeli effort on the intelligence front. According to the official, quote, this man had American blood on his hands. His network specifically targeted current and former U.S. officials, including President Donald Trump. The U.S. government had been offering a reward for information on him. Under this reward offer, RFJ is seeking information on the following individuals. It notes, including Khatib in the list. So thank you. Not thank you. No one sent that to me. I got that myself. But big breaking news this morning. Also, yesterday you heard that President Trump put NATO allies on notice after they shunned his request for assistance in keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for international shipping. We're going to talk more about that. There's a couple good opinion pieces on that a little bit later on in the broadcast. This is just kind of breaking news or updates from stories we've had for you the last few days. Trump, both publicly and on social media, lashed out at European allies, including France and the UK, for their refusal to help and implied their defiance would have broader repercussions for the entire alliance, saying, quote, it's certainly something that we should think about. When asked if he would remove the U.S. from NATO, I don't need Congress for that decision, as you probably know. I can make that decision by myself. The president has never been a fan of the Cold War era alliance, complaining since his first term in office that its members don't pay an equitable share of dues and are too dependent on the U.S. for protection. Quote, I am very disappointed in NATO, very disappointed. We spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits. The U.S. is the largest financial contributor to the alliance, estimated at approximately $980 billion in 2025 alone, accounting for 65% of its defense budget. While vocal in his response, it's unclear if Trump will confront the allies in person. The White House wouldn't say if he plans on attending the next NATO meeting, which is being held in Turkey on July 7th through 8th. He said on Truth Social, the United States has been informed by most of our NATO allies in quotes, that they don't want to get involved with our military operation. We will protect them, but they will do nothing for us in particular in a time of need. Because of the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. Likewise, Japan, Australia, or South Korea. In fact, speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone. That coming in yesterday. Your thoughts on that? Also, later yesterday evening, the U.S. military dropped 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs on underground Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz. The massive attack, announced by U.S. Central Command, came as the war with Iran had staunched the flow of shipping through the vital Persian Gulf waterway, according to the New York Post. The regional command said at 7 p.m. yesterday, hours ago, U.S. forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on hardened Iranian missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles in these sites posed a risk to international shipping in the strait. A U.S. official told CNN that the munitions were the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator, an explosive first released by U.S. aircraft in 2021. The massive bomb was developed to overcome hardened, deeply buried target challenges and designed for both fighter and bomber aircrafts. All right. Now, Israel, according to, I think this was from CNN, Israel believes its ongoing campaign of targeted killings against senior Iranian officials and military figures is sowing chaos in the Iranian regime's leadership. I would think so. I mean, when you start off day one with 40-plus leaders, and that's only grown, they expect further destabilization following the elimination of senior regime figure Ali Larijani and senior Bazi commander on Tuesday, according to a senior Israeli intelligence official. The official told CNN the regime has been affected with a force 6 to 10 times greater than in Operation Rising Lion. They are struggling to form policy, make decisions, and issue orders between military and political levels. We see chaos, and the situation is expected to worsen soon. Israeli forces targeted Larijani after he was seen in public last Friday walking through central Tehran. It was kind of a show of strength or kind of a cockiness when he was walking through the streets of central Tehran. According to the official, every time they decide to appear publicly, it's a big advantage for us. The basic idea is to make them understand that they have no safe place. Israeli Defense Force spokesman Brigadier General Efi Defrin said after taking out the top and secondary leadership, we are now killing company commanders on the tactical level, and it's very difficult for them to operate. We are hunting generals 24 hours around the clock, so it's hard for them to function. Now, it is interesting to me, and that may have been, no, I think that was CNN. I do find it interesting, depending on the outlet you go, it can be very... well, we've talked about media propaganda so often. Depending on what outlet you go to, you would think this is the longest war perhaps we've ever been involved in. You would think that it was a mess, that it was not going the way Trump wanted. We also have quite a few stories in that line, a couple of articles later on that we'll just essentially read the headline for. But to me, it's really interesting that that is the narrative. And again, they're trying to create this feeling in you that we are losing. But then when you read the kind of live updates and you see how much destruction there has been to leadership in Iran and kind of their infrastructure, it doesn't correlate. with what the headlines are saying. We're going to give you some examples of that later on. Two quick things. One quick thing before we go to our first break. President Donald Trump has decided to delay his trip to China by a month or so, reportedly due to the Iran war. The Chinese government indignantly insisted that Trump's delay had nothing to do with China's refusal to protect global shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, saying, quote, "We noted that the U.S. has publicly made clarifications on the misguided media reports, calling them completely false. The U.S. side stressed that the visit is not linked to the issue over the Strait of Hormuz. China and the U.S. remain in communications on President Trump's visit to China, including the dates. I have nothing to add at the moment," said Lin in response to further questions. So that is just kind of for your information. All right, we do have an update on the voter ID bill, the SAVE Act. A couple of things here. I don't know if you really, who cares about the Illinois primary? If you have any questions on that, I can get that for you. But we'll read your comments. We got a lot more to talk about when we return. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Insurance companies don't make money by paying claims. They make money by denying them. They hire doctors to say you're not that hurt. They bring in lawyers to chip away at your case. They stall, they argue, they cut corners, because every dollar they save is another dollar of profit. At WYDC Injury Law, we know their tactics, and we fight back with facts and evidence. If you've been injured in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies control your story.
Winter can test your patience and your vehicle. Ford SUVs help you get a grip on the season. Slick roads, we're on it. Muddy trails, conquered. Heavy drifts, you got this. Why compromise on capability? Focus on the ride, not the forecast. Returning lessees can now lease an Explorer for $319 a month for 36 months. Only at your local Ford stores.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today, and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to. Seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. As far as Trump saying we don't need your help to NATO, he is right. If you want something done right, do it yourself. And he should take the money from NATO and pay the TSA. That's a good idea. Wow, that's getting wild, isn't it? I wasn't going to jump to that story, but they're even talking about, TSA officials are even talking about the potential of smaller airports shutting down amid the funding crisis. Now, the reason you're not hearing a lot about this is because it's a disaster for Democrats. They're a part of that shutdown. They're the reason. And yes, I know they always try to spin it and somehow blame it on Republicans, which makes no sense. But acting Deputy Transportation Secretary Administration Administrator, how about that for a business card? Acting Deputy Transportation Secretary let me try again. Acting Deputy Transportation Security Administrator Adam Stahl warned Tuesday that smaller airports might be forced to shut down if more security workers call out or quit amid the ongoing shutdown that has withheld the paychecks. So at this point, we're fully stretched. Frankly, there's not much else we can do. As the weeks continue, if this continues, it's not hyperbole to suggest that we may have to quite literally shut down airports, particularly smaller ones. If call-out rates go up, a lot of those officers can't afford to come in. Wow. And we know the wait lines have been 3-4 hours. Now, Senator Andy Kim, a Democrat from New Jersey, claimed Republicans are focused on trying to, and I quote, rig the election instead of opening DHS. Explain this one to me. Well, look, what we do need is to make sure that we are funding all of these different elements, like CISA, that engages in our cybersecurity lead. TSA, as we hear from so many Americans, we have pushed that forward. The Democrats in the Senate, we have pushed forward an effort to fully fund TSA. No other restrictions upon that. We have put forward legislation that would fully fund CISA, fully fund our cybersecurity operation. That's what the Republicans right now are opposing. And instead, what are they spending this week doing? Not focused on the war, not focused on lowering costs, but continue to push this lie about voter fraud that is all about trying to basically rig the election going forward for Donald Trump. As he said, that this is their way of winning the midterm elections and elections for years and years to come. They're not focused on what it is that the American people want. So if they want to open Homeland Security, they want to open CISA, FEMA, TSA, we have to put forward that legislation. Let us vote on it. Okay. Rig the election. Interesting. Voter ID to make sure that your vote legally counts is now considered rigging the election. But to that note, Senate Republicans on Tuesday successfully launched their floor takeover to put Senate Democrats on record against Trump-backed voter ID legislation, because the polls show around 80%, and this isn't Democrat, Republican, it's all 80% of Americans support a voter ID law. It's a move to shift the spotlight from internal GOP divisions over the Save America Act onto Senate Democrats, who are ultimately withholding the needed votes to pass the bill. Not a single Democrat will support the SAVE Act. It is a radical bill, said Chuck Schumer. And if Republicans try to burn time on the legislation here on the floor, we will oppose them for as long as it takes. It also is the culmination of a pressure campaign on Senate Majority Leader John Thune from President Donald Trump and a fervent campaign to put the bill on the floor. Trump said he spoke with Thune Monday morning about the forthcoming process and said he's trying. I hope John Thune gets it across the line. When asked if Trump understood the path forward, Thune said, well, I think he wants us to fight for our position, which we will, and then we'll see what Democrats want to do. Still, opening up what will be a multi-day marathon debate on the bill wasn't without hiccups. Get this, just so you know. Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, joined all Senate Democrats to block the legislation. Senator Thom Tillis, who threatened to do everything he could to block the bill, did not vote. So that tells you a lot, well, pretty much all you need to know about someone we already knew a lot about, Lisa Murkowski. Not a surprise. But imagine, I would love to know the justification. And the idea is Thom Tillis is just, like it was said last week on the program, such a rhino, and then doesn't even really put his money where his mouth is, just didn't vote. While the lobbying campaign from Senators Mike Lee, Rick Scott, and Ron Johnson was partly successful in getting the bill to the floor, it is still destined to fail. Lee said during a video call on X Monday, that he and Trump were confident they could win the floor fight if Republicans get this thing teed up and we do not leave it until it's passed. Lee and cohort of Republicans pushed Thune to enact a talking filibuster to effectively wear down Senate Democrats and lower the threshold to pass the Save America Act to just a simple majority vote. But there wasn't unanimous support among Republicans for the move, making a novel idea into a math problem that could easily backfire on the GOP, given that Republicans don't have the votes to block several Democratic amendments that would drastically change the bill. Lee said, if your senators don't support using the talking filibuster to pass the Save America Act, you might need to replace them. With the initial hurdle passed, the Senate will now begin the marathon debate and amendment process. Amendment votes will only come at the tail end of the floor battle and will require Republicans to take another procedural test that Democrats could block. And each amendment which Republicans will control, has to hit a 60-vote threshold, meaning that none of the provisions that Trump wants to be attached to the bill will survive. Senator Eric Schmidt, who is the head of the flurry of amendments with a package of add-ons that includes Trump's desired modifications to the bill. Anyway, we don't have to go through all of that, but that's where we are at. Now it was, who was it? Was it Speaker Johnson? It says Johnson, but it doesn't give the first name. Johnson acknowledged the hurdles before the vote and agreed the absentee ballots couldn't be halted altogether, but lawmakers should find reasonable restrictions on the practice. I've argued myself, you can't ban absentee ballots or I'm not going to be able to vote. I'm here on Tuesday in Washington, so you have to have absentee ballots, but there's got to be restrictions on it. All right, there we are. Okay, there's your update on the Save America Act. We've got a couple other just quick things that there's no real segue through before we start talking about, wow, a lot actually. But we want to talk about, of course, about National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent resigning. Not really a surprise, kind of a history. Well, we'll talk about his history and what he said in the past. But I've got some kind of oddball. The next segment will be a couple of oddball stories and an oddball update. So stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
At the Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, we provide students with a variety of community-based and academic opportunities and a fresh start. Located on the Corning Community College campus, students earn high school credits and gain real-world experiences through community service, internships, art partnerships, and work opportunities, experiences they value for a lifetime. Our students find a place to reconnect and succeed. The Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, turning fresh starts into future success.
Children deserve the best start. That includes good oral health. As life milestones are met, ensure they visit dental specialists at ages 1, 7, and 15. Around age 1, it's time for a visit with a pediatric dentist to help establish good oral health habits. At 7, it's time to see an orthodontist to ensure your child's bite, teeth, and jaws are developing properly. Around 15, it's time for a visit to an oral and maxillofacial surgeon to determine if your child's wisdom teeth need to be removed or monitored. Remember, milestones met, healthy teeth set. Visit specialists at ages 1, 7, and 15. Make these appointments at the right time to ensure a proper foundation for good oral health. Learn more at milestonesmet.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in, my wife showed me a post on X saying that Murkowski and Tillis are saying that they will vote against a motion to proceed on the SAFE Act. The Republicans need to get their act together. I know more of them are scared that the Democrats will demonize them in close races, but their inaction will eventually push the Republican Party into oblivion. I agree. Murkowski's not a surprise, or Thom Tillis isn't a surprise either. So it still happened even without their support, but I don't know how they justify it. I mean, I guess Tillis probably at this point, Thom Tillis, is probably just trying to prove his anti-Trump bona fides. Murkowski can go back and forth, but I don't know how she justifies it. It's just, I mean, how do you, just don't keep the R next to your name. Unless they're for political expediency doing it because they think that's the only way they can win. I'm not sure, but yes, I agree with you. It's very frustrating. All right, a couple of weird stories this morning. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, is attempting to put a new rule in place that would ban, get this, Donald Trump and all U.S. officials from ever attending any international sporting event, even those occurring on U.S. soil. The rule change with the anti-American World Anti-Doping Agency officials, they are trying to push through this that comes just ahead of several major events that will be held in the U.S., including this year's World Cup, the Olympics scheduled for Los Angeles in 2028, and the Olympics Winter Games set for 2034. The vindictive rule is just another attack in the war of words between the international agency, which was founded back in 1999, and the federal government and the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. It is a fight that has been going on for years, meaning that Donald Trump is not the sole target of WADA's ire. I don't know if they call it WADA, but I assume. I don't want to go through their history because it's obviously clearly a joke. But where was it? U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn ripped WADA and even said its vindictive move is proof that the U.S. criticism of the agency is valid. So imagine that. Nope. No Trump officials or any American officials can attend a game, even on American soil. Hey, I know many of you have been following Nancy Guthrie's investigation to look into Nancy Guthrie, what is, I guess, to be assumed a kidnapping. Now, Chris Nanos, the sheriff in charge of Guthrie's investigation, is now facing a massive recall drive from furious locals after what they're saying the Democrat, quote, embarrassed the county. Daniel Buderez, a Republican congressional candidate, confirmed that he has already initiated the lengthy recall process. He said he has 500 volunteers working to collect signatures to oust Nanos from office. This is a bipartisan effort. It's not like we're trying to get signatures from one party or the other, he told the Post. He has been an embarrassment to Tucson and to Pima County with this Nancy Guthrie case, adding that last week's allegation that the sheriff lied under oath about his employment history were the final straw. Everyone's pretty disgusted, Democrats and Republicans. He said that Pima County deputies had told him that they wanted to launch the recall campaign themselves, but were afraid of repercussions from Sheriff Nanos. Police in Pima County had a unanimous vote of no confidence in Sheriff Nanos on Friday. Wow. I decided I'll do it because I'm a congressional candidate. I'm already in the spotlight, and I don't see Nanos messing with me. Since getting his serial number for the recall on Thursday, he now has 120 days to acquire the necessary signatures of 25% of the total votes cast in the last sheriff's election in 2024. So that equals, wow, roughly 120,000 signatures for this recall. But Buderez says he doesn't think that'll be a problem. I'm probably going to go for 135,000 signatures. Right now, we have almost 500 volunteers who want to get signatures and 5 notaries to notarize the pages for everyone. If he obtains required signatures, the Pima County Recorder then has 60 days to verify them against voter registration records. If successful, Sheriff Nanos will then be notified, at which point he has 5 days to decide whether to resign or call a special recall election. I know many of you have been watching that closely. We do not report on it as much as other outlets, but I know there's been a lot of criticism of that sheriff, and it's finally, I didn't realize he was a Democrat until that post, but it is finally coming to roost in that potential recall. We will let you know if we hear more. Okay, and since yesterday, I know we had a lot of people comment, we don't care about the Oscars, we expect their hypocrisy, we expect their politically charged statements, their anti-Trump rhetoric, their anti-conservative rhetoric. Well, there's a reason people are tuning out. It's because of that, right? How many people texted yesterday and said that they don't watch? I didn't watch, I know that. Well, a lot of people didn't watch. The Oscars are struggling to keep audiences glued to the screen. The 98th Academy Awards drew just 17.9 million viewers on ABC and Hulu. That's down 9% from last year and marks the lowest audience since 2022. Social media was the real winner. The ceremony generated 184 million impressions, up 42% from 2025. So people wanted to be glued to their phones and not to the screen. But again, it's... Does anybody want to tune into something to be lectured? So it's no surprise that the ratings were dismal. Okay, we haven't had these in a while. A federal judge says the Trump administration must let more than 1,000 sidelined Voice of America employees return to work by next week. That ruling came almost exactly 1 year after President Trump set out to dismantle the Voice of America and the rest of the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Voice of America, a widely respected U.S.-funded international broadcaster, has been mostly silent since then, according to CNN. Its website is frozen in time with no updates since March 15, 2025. Okay. Oh, 2025. But now, by court order, their news reporting and programming must be restored at a pivotal time for America's foreign relations, given the ongoing war in Iran. So, another decision by a judge to go against, and this a year later. Kind of fascinating. Let's see. I was just trying to see. I should have looked this up before, but I don't know how do you bring back the 1,042 VOA employees who have been on paid administrative leave for the past year? They must be restated by March 23rd. Okay. Did you see Susan Rice? You remember that name, Susan Rice? Who played leading roles in both Obama and Joe Biden's administration. She has, according to Michael Goodwin, has broken a Washington code of silence. What she did is she threatened that anyone who plays ball with the Trump administration will suffer payback the next time Democrats take control. Now, she's not the first one to do this. We've had a couple other people say this. And the vindictiveness, it's just like I've said, I think the next Democrat president, if there is one, will tear down the Trump ballroom at the White House. It's that kind of level. Well, she said on a podcast, this again, Susan Rice, when it comes to the elites, you know, the corporate interests, the law firms, the universities, the media, it's not going to end well for them. They're going to be held accountable by those who come in opposition to Trump and win at the ballot box. Now, we know that Susan Rice is no stranger to dirty tricks, having been involved in the Obama administration spying on Trump's 2016 White House campaign. And she was in the top ranks of the Biden White House when its Justice Department broke with 2 centuries of history by indicting and trying to convict Trump with the aim of keeping him out of the 2024 campaign. As such, her threat marks yet another example of how the left preaches one thing and practices the opposite. It blames Trump for destroying historic norms, despite how the last 2 Democrat presidents abused their power for nakedly partisan purposes. Rice's role in that abuse means she can best serve America now by going quietly into obscurity. So I don't know if you've been following that, but making those threats on a podcast, basically a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're going to get you if we win. Also, we have 2 other things, and then we'll save that for the next break. And then we're going to talk about Kent and his resignation. We also have quite a few updates just on Iran in general. A few things about New York State issues. A really good piece from, I think it was Fox? I think it was Fox News, an opinion piece from a person who owns a fracking company in relations to what his thoughts are on New York's ban on fracking. So we'll try to get to all that and much more. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, the Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's drive drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Month after year, even decades you've paid into the insurance system. You've done your part, but when you're seriously injured in a car accident or another tragedy, that system turns its back. Insurance companies care more about pumping up profits and stock prices than paying for your medical bills, your lost wages, or your recovery. At WYDC Injury Law, we fight to make them pay what's fair. If you've been hurt in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies win.
What does life after service look like? Kicking back? Taking it easy? We believe it looks a little different. For us, it's fighting for all veterans, ensuring they get the benefits they've earned, helping those in need, revitalizing communities, and adapting to support today's veterans. The VFW, still leading, still advancing, still serving.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today, and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to. Seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We've got some comments from viewers. Just quickly, though, if I could, on tomorrow's broadcast, we are going to hear from Elmira College. They've got that fundraiser, that dance marathon that they do every year. I think we interviewed them last year. We're going to talk to the leader of the Dance Marathon Club. Just a little bit about how you can help and how you can help out a great cause. That's tomorrow. And then on Friday's broadcast, it's going to be Fridays with Phil, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So make sure you tune in. Some comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Jack says, I'm afraid since Joe Kent, retired Army Green Beret and director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned because he believes Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. I think he's mostly correct, except he wasn't considering Iran's nuclear potential. I just believe if he had backed off, not down, after bombing the nuclear installation, and after he said we won, then turned control over to Congress, next, after an Iran retaliation, perhaps Trump would have looked more like a leader and less like a ruler. I'm mainly worried about the midterms. If he tips the country deeper into a ground war that could go worse than Vietnam, the Democrats will take back both houses. Right now, Trump wants all yes men around him and ignoring those people in the no. He is showing signs like Biden did and seems to be spinning rhetoric and contradicting himself more and more. Thank you, Jack. Ken writes in, so the World Doping Agency wants to ban Trump in America. I initially thought the name of the agency indicated they are working to stop doping in sports, but now I realize that they're working to create more dopes, so they have more people in the world like them. Thank you, Ken. Quickly, Hakeem Jeffries is facing a growing threat of a 2027 rebellion. I know there's been some criticism of Hakeem Jeffries, not as much as there was of Chuck Schumer. But House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries could get caught in the undertow of the very blue wave he hopes to ride into power this November, as a growing number of Democrat candidates tell Axios that they can't commit to backing his leadership. It's a stark reversal from Jeffries' virtually untouchable standing in the Democrat Party just a few years ago, and a sign that his path to the speakership may be rockier than previous thought. Now, I would say, as a rule on this, just look at Nancy Pelosi. I would say they always hype this up, but at the end of the day, if they are successful in November, they'll rally around him. Now, yes, you can say, will there be some kind of Mom Donnie Democrats, some Democrat Socialists of America Democrats that will go, yeah, maybe. But I don't see a scenario where he's ousted. Jeffries and his allies maintain they are not remotely worried about a mass defection, pointing out that even in the minority, he had to endure 20 speakers' ballots and hasn't lost a Democrat vote. But the crop of freshmen may provide the first kind of concern for him, with a block of genuinely viable candidates making clear that voting for Jeffries as Speaker is not a given if the Democrats take the House. So there's already infighting, and it's March. Wow. Axios reported last fall that more than 80 Democratic House candidates across the country were either non-committal on backing Jeffries' leadership or outright opposed it. It's only gotten worse since then. May Vang, the leading progressive primary challenger to Representative Doris Matsu, previously said he would support the person that my future colleagues elect as our leader. But in an unprompted statement last week, she told Axios the Democratic Party and its leadership, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, have failed to mobilize meaningful opposition to Trump's illegal war, and their silence as AIPAC, AIPAC, and corporations flood congressional primaries with millions of dollars is deafening. I cannot support this kind of leadership. If we want to defeat Trump and rebuild trust with working Americans, we need new leadership and a new direction. That's one person that they're highlighting. New retirement announcements and congressional map redraws since October have spawned open primaries featuring yet more candidates who are not yet sold on or could be outright hostile to Jeffries' leadership. Most Democrats are agreed that he's been failing to meet the moment, said Adam Hamaway, a candidate for New Jersey's 12th district, saying he's looking for someone that's going to stand up to the administration. Claire Valdez, a New York State Assembly member backed by Zohran Mamdani in her bid to succeed retiring Representative Nita Velquez, said in an interview with Axios that there would need to be some conversation when asked if she would support Jeffries' leadership. Wow. Interesting. Enough on that. I don't think he's going anywhere, but we could see. Okay, before we take a break, because I didn't, and then after this break, we're going to talk about Joe Kent, kind of dissect into that a little bit more. I think there's some information that you're not getting from the mainstream media that you need to know, meaning some of his past statements, some of his past beliefs. So I am not, my hair isn't on fire over this. And I think Trump was relatively reasonable about it too yesterday, saying when he first heard that I seemed like a good guy, but he's weak. He didn't have the strength. We'll talk about that. But I want to mention this to you because this is another story you won't get elsewhere. The Department of Homeland Security said yesterday that it has taken nearly 8,000 criminal illegal immigrants, immigrant gang members off the streets since Trump took office. Figures released after an alleged MS-13 monster was sentenced to more than 5 decades behind bars for his role in 2 New York City murders. DHS has arrested more than 7,800 criminal illegal alien gang members from American communities since President Trump took office. According to DHS Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biss, Biss highlighted the case of Ramiro Gutierrez, who was sentenced on March 11th in defending Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration. The MS-13 gang member participated in 2 brutal murders while illegally in our country. This monster is now facing 55 years in prison for these barbaric murders. And I don't want to go into Gutierrez's whole story. But Biz said MS-13 is one of the most barbaric criminal gangs in the world. They rape, maim, and murder for sport. President Trump is dismantling transnational criminal gangs. So 7,800 illegal migrant gang members have been arrested since Trump took office. On that note, we got to take a short break. Yes, again, tomorrow we'll be talking to Elmira College quickly, and then on Friday we'll be spending time with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. I have a couple of statements from the Assemblyman if we get a chance in the probably next hour to talk about New York State issues, because there are a few things we have to, but we still have to update on Iran. We also have just a couple other stories that really there's no way to segue to that, which we've already done once this morning, but we may do it a little bit later on as well. But right now we do have to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Our residents, this is something they love. They put themselves out there doing the show, walking the runway, walking the risers. Every penny we take in on our tickets, on our raffles, sponsorship tables, all goes to Mount House. We sold out in 2 weeks.
Tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So glad that you've joined us this morning. All right. How are we doing? We're doing good. So yesterday we learned that Joe Kent, the director of National Counterterrorism Center, resigned Tuesday, wildly claiming in his resignation letter that President Trump was duped into launching the war against Iran by Israel and media figures. Even, and we'll get to some of the comments, some of the opposition to Trump who were celebrating this. There was one person saying, and it was if I'm not mistaken, it was a Democrat, essentially saying that yes, he used anti-Semitic tropes in his statement, but you have to hold him up and support him for his resignation. And that's really what it sounded like. Kent, an Army veteran and two-time Republican congressional candidate, posted his resignation letter on X, writing, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran." Now, keep in mind, this is, and I don't think this is the reason he did it, but this will be a great job opportunity for him. He will now be, if he wants to, be able to speak on any of the MSN Now, CNN's, NBC, ABC. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And before you buy into what he said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about in the past what he had to say about Iran, so bear with me. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Kent, whose wife Sharon died in a January 16, 2019 ISIS suicide bombing while stationed in Syria, was well liked by Vice President J.D. Vance and was one of the most prominent members of the war-weary faction of Trump's base. Before entering the Trump administration, Kent built a national following through widely watched interviews with fellow anti-interventionalists Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson. Before serving as a key deputy of Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, another longtime skeptic of Mideast wars. Trump called Kent's departure a good thing. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. Joe is the let's see. Oh, I'm not quoting Tucker Carlson. I could care less what Tucker Carlson has to say. I'm not sure whether. So yeah, I'm definitely not reading that. The administration official told the Post that Kent is respected as a patriot and a man of integrity who has sacrificed immensely for this country. He is also no dove when it comes to Iran. During his time in the military and intelligence community, he was responsible for the deaths of numerous Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operatives and Iranian proxies. I'm certain he did not take this action lightly. In his resignation letter itself, Kent accused Trump of abandoning the values of his 3 White House campaigns and urged him to end the war, saying, "I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on. Why did I say champion? Campaigned on in 2016, 2020, and 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Mideast were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiment to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the U.S. and that, should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again." Wow. You can definitely see where some people can read between the lines there and question maybe a little anti-Semitism there. I'm not the one saying it was a quote that we'll get to here in just a little bit. Now, Trump said, when I read the statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. When somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people. They're not smart people and they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt issued a lengthy statement accusing Kent of making false statements. Leavitt wrote that Trump had deployed his top negotiators in an effort to avoid war, but had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States first. She also blasted the absurd allegations that President Trump made this decision based on the influence of others, even foreign countries, calling it both insulting and laughable. Gabbard made clear Tuesday that she supports Trump's decision to launch the ongoing Iran war after her deputy resigned and accused the president of being manipulated by when he resigned and accused him. Her office is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the president and commander-in-chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. After careful review, all the information for him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. Another broadside came from former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Bodwick, who wrote, Joe Kent is a crazed egomaniac who is often at the center of national security leaks, while rarely, never producing any actual work. This isn't some principled resignation. He just wanted to make a splash before getting canned. What a loser. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, it does sound like a bit of an egomaniac. But the leaks make you wonder because there were so many leaks. Very interesting. We're going to tell you a little bit more about Mr. Kent here in just a little bit, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. We're going to be wrapping up hour number 1, so get your comments in.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to, seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We are talking about Joe Kent. Now, we'll save this one for to take a little bit of a look back at what he said in the past. We'll talk about that in a moment and probably at the beginning of the next hour. But as I said, Trump says that it's a good thing that Joe Kent resigned because he was very weak on security. So that was kind of the statement coming from the President of the United States. We're going to tell you what some of the, if you will, opponents of Trump had to say, celebrating Joe Kent, and all of a sudden Joe Kent's a hero. It's always interesting when someone in the Trump administration is a hero after they resign, or if they try to embarrass Trump in some way, whether it's in Congress or whether it's in Trump's administration. You see, we could talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Liz Cheneys in the elected world, but you can also talk about some of the people specifically in Trump's first term where they would resign or be fired, and then they were heroes, and they're on, MS Now, at the time MSNBC. They're on CNNs and the like. And so they go through, and man, there's a lot of talk lately about kind of these conservative podcasters, many of whom I've never even heard of. But House Speaker Mike Johnson said, I don't know where Joe Kent is getting his information, but he wasn't in those briefings, clearly. They had exquisite intelligence that we understood this was a serious moment for us. As I had mentioned, Bodowich earlier, Blasted Kent is a crazed egomaniac. He spent all of his time working to subvert the chain of command and undermine the President of the United States. This isn't some principled resignation. He just wanted to make a splash before getting canned. What a loser. Mark Levin said, I wonder if this guy, Joe Kent, was about to get fired but quickly resigned first. That's how these things typically work. He's part of the radical, isolationist, woke right cabal. Watch how the left-wing media use him to attack the president and the military campaign against Iran. In part, that's why he wrote that letter. I wonder if he was one of the leakers in the administration just asking questions. I think you can seriously take a step back now and wonder if he was one of the leakers just because of the comments that he made. Because I got to say, there's too many questions. To put that letter out, he either wants to become kind of the useful idiot to the media, to have a job, to feed his ego, or it is to undermine maybe administration that he had already been undermining with leaks. A lot of questions that you raise. Senator Lindsey Graham said the resignation of Joe Kent as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center could not have come at a better time. All right, our number 1 is in the books. Our number 2, Moments Away. We're going to talk about Joe Kent a little bit more, but not a ton more, because we've got a bunch of updates on Iran, and we really need to talk about some New York State issues. There's a piece of Fox News by Dan Doyle, and the headline is, I run a fracking company. New York banned the industry and stuck the poor with the bill. We're going to talk about that. A couple things about Blakeman, I guess, and Hochul. I mean, just not a lot there. As a reminder, no, I can't give you a reminder because we're out of time. Stay with us.
An accident can turn your life upside down in an instant. Pain, medical bills, time off work, it's overwhelming. And when you look to the insurance company for help, they don't see you. They don't see your family or what you've lost. To them, you're just a number, just dollars on a spreadsheet. Their job is to pay you as little as possible. At WYDC Injury Law, we see the person behind the claim. We fight for your recovery, your future, and your peace of mind. If you've been hurt in New York, call 607-500-HURT.
Move Metal in March is back at McGuire, and it's bigger than ever. Now through March 31st, save big on thousands of in-stock vehicles. Lock in the lowest interest rates of the year. Get top dollar for your trade. And no payments for 90 days thanks to Beginnings Credit Union. Move Metal in March. Happening now at all McGuire locations.
World Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world.
We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to.
Yeah.
Right, Rod?
Exactly.
We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
And we welcome you to our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We're talking about the resignation of Joe Kent. We are going to move on from that in just a moment, but let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, good morning, Steve. I guess everybody's forgot how at one point you had to show proof that you were vaccinated just to be able to go and do things and be out and about or to have a surgery. If he didn't have it with you, you didn't receive it. If he didn't have it, you didn't receive it. So if you didn't get it, you didn't receive it. Some hospitals won't even let you in unless you had the COVID vaccination. Then you were nurses that had survived COVID for over 2 years, and then they were mandated to either get the shot or they would no longer have a job. Then all federally funded jobs also, if they didn't get the vaccination, they would lose their jobs. So who is a dictator and a king? It's amazing how the short-term memory of people just flies out the window because they're told to hate somebody. That's a good point under Biden. I mean, it's something as simple. I remember going to a concert where you had bought expensive tickets, and if you didn't have your vaccine card, you weren't allowed in. And there's so many, a lot stronger examples than that. We just happened to, me and a couple people happened to have that conversation the other day that it's wild to think about. But yes, they do throw that term dictator and king around a lot, don't they? Coming from a different viewer, Iran not a threat? Who crashed the planes in the Twin Towers? Who set off the bombs in crowded places? Who, if they could, would bomb the world? Joe Kent is an idiot. Well, Kent's resignation from his national security post over opposition to military action against Iran follows earlier public statements in which he warned about threats posed by Iran. We don't need to read any more of his resignation letter. The stance contrasts with Kent's earlier public posts on X, where he described Iran as a significant threat and advocated for direct action against its military capabilities. On January 8th of 2020, Kent wrote, "Trump's restraint shows that he wants to deal with Iran, and his red line is American loss of life and IR nuke development. Our fundamental vulnerability remains troops in striking range of IR weapons and proxies with no vital U.S. mission." In that thread, he also shared the following: additional sanctions will only be effective if they address Iran's access to the Iraqi economy. So, oh my goodness, hold on. I'm going to turn down that because I think they're going by. Fire truck going by. Sorry about that. So he further stated, "I personally think we should have crushed their ballistic and nuke capes, but Trump has a plan. He has definitely earned the confidence of any clear-eyed observer." What's changed so much about Mr. Kent? Has it gotten better with Iran having a nuclear weapon since 2020, or has it gotten worse? On September 29th of 2024, he wrote, "Important. Iran's goal in orchestrating the October 7th was to break up the Abraham Accords because the historic alliance isolated Iran's terror regime. Trump used a balance of diplomacy, economic pressure, and targeted strikes to contain Iran. The embodiment of peace through strength." We don't have to go through all these. It raises a lot of red flags with his decision to kind of try to sound like he's taking some moral high ground, when, as so many others have said, was this meaning that he potentially was going to be ousted? So again, I mentioned Carolyn Levitt, said, "As President Trump has clearly and explicitly stated, he had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States first. This evidence was compiled from many sources and factors. President Trump would never make this decision to deploy military assets against a foreign adversary in a vacuum. The Iranian regime is evil. It proudly killed Americans, waged war against our country, and openly threatened us all the way up to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. Iran was aggressively expanding their short-range ballistic missile to combine with their naval assets to give themselves immunity, meaning they would have a degree of capabilities that would give them immunity to hold us and the rest of the world hostage. The regime aimed to use those ballistic missiles as a shield to continue achieving their ultimate goal, nuclear weapons." Levitt said the president ultimately made the determination that a joint attack with Israel would greatly reduce the risk to American lives that would come from a first strike by the terrorist Iranian regime and address this imminent threat to America's national security issues. She also slammed the absurd allegation that President Trump made the decision based on the influence of others, even foreign countries, calling it insulting and laughable. Now, Trump's political opposition is celebrating Joe Kent's resignation, and that's why we use the term, and it's a political term. I mean, I'm sure you can use it for other things too, but kind of the useful idiot. With that resignation letter, he now knows that people, and that's why so many people are speculating whether or not he was a leaker during the administration, because now he knows that the media can use this to attack Trump, knows that he can get a lot of interview opportunities to attack Trump. Never Trumper Tim Miller, who was Jeb Bush's communication director in 2016, well, he may have a reason to hate Trump. He said, have talked a lot of blank about Joe Kent over the years, and he deserved it. And can't speak to all of his motivations here, but got to say it's pretty refreshing to see that someone in this administration has a red line on something. See, that's when you start to know you've been used. Not that Mr. Kent probably didn't know this, but when they hated you, just like it reminds me of Liz Cheney. They hated her father and hated her. But boy, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. But now they're getting this love thrown at them from the same people that still will hate them, but hated them for so long and said such despicable things about them. Bill Kristol, another Never Trumper. If you ever want to have just a laugh, somehow Bill Kristol still gets invited as some type of pundit. He could not have been more wrong about 2016. I mean, he was saying that Trump was going to be out before Iowa. Then he said Trump was going to be out. He said before Christmas, before Iowa, he's never going to win. I mean, it was over and over. I remember there was a website or an article that someone went through and compiled them all and how embarrassing they ultimately were. Somehow still gets attention. Bill Kristol said, interesting how many other ambitious MAGA politicians are seeing a path forward in opposing the war. Okay, I don't want to go through any more of this. Why am I reading all these people? Now, ABC News chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl was giddy to see Kent resign. That I did want to mention. Something we have rarely seen during the Trump era, a senior official resigning in protest. In this case, resigning to protest a war against Iran. Representative Don Bacon, who has been a staunch Trump critic himself, blasted Kent in a post celebrating his departure. Good riddance. Iran has murdered more than 1,000 Americans. Their EFP landmines were the deadliest in Iraq. Anti-Semitism is an evil I detest. Excuse me. We surely don't want it in our government. And I think you can read some of that. And I know that's what some people are saying. Some kind of, well, actually, where was it? Democrat Representative Jim Hines said that Joe Kent's resignation letter plays into traditional anti-Semitic tropes of the Jews controlling this or that or controlling the media. But I do have to hold him up as a guy who, and this is extremely rare in the Trump administration, is a guy who is willing to resign because of his principles. So suggesting that there's some anti-Semitism there, but then he's holding him up because he's resigning because of his principles. Are those principles the same anti-Semitic tropes that you mentioned earlier? That's kind of a weird pretzel that he's got himself into. What? Yeah, that is a weird one. So he asked, well, I don't want to say what it was on CNN News Central, but Haim said, yeah, look, I'm not your guy to comment on Joe Kent. I've been in a room with him 2 or 3 times, and I'm aware of his background. But let me say 2 things I do know to be true. Number 1, I know where the Israeli prime minister has been on the subject of Iran for a very, very long time. He's expressed his view on Iran and the necessity to take on Iran very, very clearly to lots and lots of people, including me. Number 2, and I would say this to your point, I think you have to tread extremely carefully. As I read Joe Kent's letter very, very closely, you need to tread very, very carefully in the words you use, because sadly, Joe Kent's language plays into traditional anti-Semitic tropes of the Jews controlling this or that or controlling the media. And at a time when synagogues are being attacked, when there's massive upwelling of anti-Semitism, I think you should be a great deal more precise than Joe Kent was in this letter. But maybe that's the language Joe Kent wanted to use. And it's interesting. We'd like to see some more comments from Jim Hines, the Democrat from Connecticut, about some of the people in his own party when it comes to using anti-Semitic tropes. But I'll continue. Keeler, the host, I always forget Keeler's name. It doesn't matter. CNN. Saying, are Democrats in danger of lauding someone's sort of opinion here that perhaps they may not want to fully associate with? He says, well, I can only speak for this Democrat, and you can reread my tweet if you want. Again, I have my differences with Joe Kent, many differences with Joe Kent, but I do have to hold him up as a guy who, and this is extremely rare in the Trump administration, is a guy who is willing to resign because of his principles. I don't see that anywhere else in this administration. I don't, frankly, see it much in the Congress of the United States. So don't take my admiration for his resigning as a matter of principle, as an endorsement of anything else that Joe Kent believes. But principles matter. Even if those principles are anti-Semitic, that's a weird one. Jen Psaki argued that former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, was unqualified for the job and had a history of associating with far-right figures and peddling debunked January 6 conspiracies. But, and there's always a but his departure is also a sign that Trump isn't telling the truth about the reason for this war. Joe Kent was not some kind of career bureaucrat with a long history of intelligence work, or really a person with a history of any intelligence work whatsoever. He was a twice-failed MAGA congressional candidate who had a history of associating with far-right figures and peddling debunked January 6 conspiracies. He was a loyal member of what you might call the Tucker Carlson wing of the MAGA movement, so loyal that he reportedly ordered an analyst to write an intelligence assessment about the relationship between Venezuela and Trey Diarriga to better align with the whims of the president. Look, the most striking thing to me about Joe Kent's resignation is not that he was unqualified for the job. We knew that, and that applies across many people Trump has appointed. But that this is yet another real sign of the enormous cracks within Trump's party over the Iran war. It's also a sign that Trump isn't telling the truth about the reason for this war. Now, do you buy into that? Do I think there are some cracks in the MAGA movement on this about Iran? I do. I mean, I think there's no denying that. But are they blowing this out of proportion? Now, we've had some people that clearly disagree with what's happening in Iran comment on this program, but we've had a lot that are in support of it. I don't see this being, of all the things that there's been fighting over in politics, I don't know if this is, I think this is just another excuse for the media to tell you that MAGA's over, to tell you that Trump's done. I mean, they've been chomping at the bit for this. One last thing, I know I'm running late, but the New York Post editorial board said feverish Iran war critics seized on Joe Kent's resignation as somehow proving Donald Trump was foolish to launch Operation Epic Fury, when in fact Kent's I quit letter proves he never belonged in that high post. It's not just that he contradicted his own past positions, for example, saying Trump should have attacked Iran's weapons programs all the way back in 2020, like I mentioned to you earlier, in a letter that now says Iran posed no imminent threat. So apparently they got less threatful, less of a threat from 2020 till today, and insists Trump went to war 2 weeks ago, quote, due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. It's that he bizarrely blamed Israel for the Gulf War, which Ariel Sharon quietly advised against, and even for his own wife's tragic death in Syria at the hands of ISIS and a campaign begun by Israel-hating President Barack Obama to clean up the mess created by Obama's own policies. Kent's service to the country includes 11 combat tours. It's beyond sad to see him ranting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and publicly assaulting the president in the middle of a war. Of course, Democrats and their media minions cheered, though they'd previously assailed Kent for allegedly associating with far-right figures. Yes, they hated him. That's what I just don't understand why people want that attention so bad from people that hate them. But the conspiracy theory he's now embraced is huge on the left. No less than Senator Bernie Sanders endorsed Kent's claim that the war is Israel's fault. Sadly, it looks like he's been in decline for some time. Numerous leaks suggest Kent had been sidelined for months due to suspicion of leaking information. Whatever the full story, the country's plainly better with this nutcase out of government. Trump has condemned anti-Semitism and is leading a successful war effort over the objection of extremists on both the right and the left. If any more Joe Kents are still working for him, they need to go also. I thought that was a great post by the Post. We're going to talk about Iran. Got a couple other things to get to as well. We'll read your comments when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Crispy hot hash browns, sweet savory McGriddles, refreshingly cool iced coffee. Oh, don't mind me, just doing my morning affirmations. Crispy hot hash browns, sweet savory McGriddles.
Mix and match a sausage McMuffin with egg McMuffin, or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles. Get any two for just $5 and pair it with $1.99 any size iced coffee.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Bell.
Bet now.
Bet now.
Bet now. Bet now.
Take a pause. Simple, right? But for people struggling with gambling, it can seem impossible.
My life is so much better because I was able to get the help and stop gambling.
You can stop now, and there's a community of people that want to help you.
A pause can get your life back on track. See how at oasas.ny.gov or call 877-8-HOPE-NY. OASAS, here for you every step of the way.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today, and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to. Seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Comments from viewers, not all of them. I didn't get to all of them. I apologize. I was getting some tea. Good morning, Frank. It's a bit disturbing to read Kent's resignation letter. I'm afraid too many will start seeing a pattern and start second-guessing this propaganda. I wonder what his price tag was. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, I wonder how much Kent got paid, by the Dems to flip and go against the war in Iran. I mean, first he said Iran is a threat, and now he says they're not. Yeah, he said that Iran was a threat back all the way in 2020. So do you think they got better? Ken writes in, where do you think America would be today if Trump never ran for office? When I first started paying attention to politics, it was clear that the Democrats' plan was to change America slowly into being more liberal and on a path to socialism. It was kind of like killing conservatism with one paper cut at a time. I think the plan was to go very slowly so no one would realize it was happening until it was too late. After the people elected Trump, it seems like the Democrats realized that their slow and steady push to liberalism was in jeopardy, and they took the gloves off to crush the conservative movement. I would agree with that, going all the way back to when Trump won. I mean, they thought Trump had no chance of winning whatsoever, right? They had laughed about it. Hillary was going to be the shoo-in. Once he won, yeah, the gloves came off. The gloves are definitely off. That's a perfect way of putting it. Ken, thank you for that. Now, Iran did confirm, as I mentioned yesterday, or I mentioned it this morning, but yesterday that they confirmed that the brutal leader, Ali Larijani, was killed after the U.S.-Israeli airstrikes. The Secretary of Supreme National Security Council, as they put it, quote, has been martyred. Larijani was widely seen as the Islamic Republic's second in command, with the official serving as the de facto ruler after Ayatollah al-Khamenei was killed on February 28th. What's interesting about him, he tried to show this sign of strength by walking in the streets last week, and he made threats to Trump over and over again. And, well, we see where that ultimately got him. Defense Minister Israel Katz from Israel said Larijani and the Bazzi commander were eliminated last night and have joined Ayatollah al-Khamenei, the head of the Annihilation Program, along with all those eliminated from the access of evil into the depths of hell. Iranian state media did not immediately confirm the death, as instead published a handwritten note. But I think Iran did eventually confirm. Now Iran's rulers are unleashing a brutal crackdown on domestic dissent to stave off an uprising. Again, for all these people that we got lectured by for so long about Palestine, free Palestine, we still did at the Oscars, it would be nice if those same people that have this immense hatred for Benjamin Netanyahu would have a hatred for the Iran regime and protest for the people and solidarity for the people that are protesting this murderous regime. But they're not. They're quiet. I don't know if they mentioned anything at all in the Oscars about it, but it seems to me that the anti-Semitic protesters that became so popular for a while mysteriously quiet when it comes to a regime cracking down on their own people and killing tens of thousands. Iran's rulers have unleashed a brutal crackdown of arrests and death threats against would-be protesters in a desperate bid to curb an uprising, according to reports. And we know that, listen, Iran's lost a lot of commanders, a lot of leaders. As Israel said, they believe, and due to intelligence reports, that there is kind of chaos there. Despite the weakening of Iranian police, the paramilitary Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and I don't know how you say it, and the Baji militia by U.S. and Israeli strikes, including Israel's killing of the head of the Baji, security forces are still suppressing domestic dissent, according to the Wall Street Journal. Armed plainclothesmen with covered faces have been riding around on motorcycles, wielding their weapons to intimidate Iranians, and have set up a network of security checkpoints in Tehran to search cars, according to, again, the Wall Street Journal. At least 500 people have been arrested since the start of the war and have been accused of sharing information with the media or enemy forces, the commander of Iran's police force announced on Sunday. Several people were detained for simply taking photos and videos of airstrikes in the region. Police have also killed at least 11 people after they were accused of being supporters of the exiled son of Iran's last Shah. Security officials have been threatening would-be protesters through terrifying television broadcasts and text messages, ordering that there is a shoot-to-kill order for any dissent, according to the outlet. Again, the Wall Street Journal. One text message reviewed by the Journal and sent by the Revolutionary Guard over the weekend warned that rioters could face a stronger blow than January 8th. If you're just joining us, yes, there are fire trucks and various emergency vehicles in the background. A continued near-total internet blackout has complicated communications and mobilization of protests. Many residents of Tehran were terrified to leave their homes due to the heavily security presence and possible persecution. In a video statement, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that targeted strikes on terror operatives have taken place to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire, which is a celebration on the eve of the last Wednesday before Nowruz, or the Persian New Year. I'm here with Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force, our senior commanders. In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircrafts are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate, and happy Nowruz. We're watching from above. Wow. So again, just with the leadership, the loss of leadership, it's pretty interesting, the kind of the tizzy they must be in, the chaos that they must be in to get their message out. But I'm going to tell you what the media has been saying about this, and not too much because I know that gets frustrating, but a couple things here about the media, a couple things about what maybe some, we'll probably just leave it at that, just the media. We are going to wrap this up eventually because I want to talk about some New York State issues. So stay with us. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat, live on stage. The world's #1 Cat in the Hat show is coming to North America. Young and old alike will delight in this brand new adaptation of the Dr. Seuss classic as it comes to life before your very eyes. The Cat in the Hat.
March 25th at the Clemens Center in downtown Elmira. Tickets at clemenscenter.org.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
I lost my 19-year-old son Johnny to suicide after he became psychotic from using marijuana, vapes, and dabs. He experienced cannabis-induced psychosis and thought the mob and the FBI were after him. Dabs are products with concentrated, high-potency THC, the chemical in marijuana that gives users the high feeling. One hit on a dab pen today is the same as smoking 50 old-fashioned joints back in the day. Use of THC before the age of 25 causes changes in brain development, a loss of IQ points, and lower motivation. Studies show THC increases the risk of anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia in developing brains. I lost my child, but it's not too late for yours. Educate your teen on the harms of marijuana.
A public service message from the nonprofit Johnny's Ambassadors. Learn the risks and get the facts at johnnysambassadors.org.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam. You hear the sirens in the background. You can see some of the smoke. It's up. We're trying to get the exact location for you now where the fire is from. But it is very close. I can smell the smoke in the studios this morning. So when we find out anything, we will let you know. But you will hear quite a few sirens. And as I said, it looks up to be up maybe on the hill. But if we hear exactly where, we will pass that along to you. Okay, we were talking about Iran. John Fetterman has been very strong in his support of this attack on Iran and been very strong in his support for Israel. Well, veteran Democrat Party strategist James Carville, who was at last week, had one of the weirdest comments I've ever heard from a political quote-unquote pundit, where he was praying to be filled with more, and actually praying to God to be filled with hate. More hate for Donald Trump. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't, it didn't even seem like it was trying to be funny, because it definitely wasn't. It was just unhinged behavior. Well, he posted a video arguing that Fetterman's support for the war in Iran is part of a long history of wrong opinions. Okay. Carville received a question from a listener on whether he thinks any Democrats will be kind of duped into supporting President Donald Trump or even just pausing criticism of him during the war in Iran. That train has left the station, said one of the Al Hunt, the co-host. This war is going so badly that anyone jumping on that train, I'm mixing my metaphors now, it would be a kamikaze mission. So the answer is no. It's going so bad. I don't want to be naive here. Am I missing something on how quote-unquote bad this is going? We're, 18 days into it. How many of the leaders have we taken out? So the main issue that we're dealing with right now is the Strait of Hormuz, but we dropped, 5,000-pound bunker bombs on areas in that, around the Strait of Hormuz that was making missiles. And I'm just confused how it's, I guess I will say, if you go to certain outlets, I'm sure you do believe that way because you're not getting the actual news reported to you. But I'll continue. Carville started again. Carville said, can I say a public prayer? What is with this with Carville? John Fetterman, whatever you do, keep your position. Don't change. We don't want you. Stay right where you are because you've been wrong about every blanking thing that you've ever said, and we don't want you to break your streak. And can I assure you that the fact that you think it's a good idea is not going to matter one whit to any Democrat? So this is the same James Carville who wrote that piece that said Kamala Harris is going to win. It's interesting when people like this are so confident. It might get your name in the paper more, he said. All right. Joy Reid bizarrely claimed that U.S. is only marginally better than Iran while comparing abortion laws to Islamic regime. Just showing you what the left mindset is on this. Far-left podcaster Joy Reid argued that the United States is only marginally better than Iran. Appearing on this podcast on March 11, our regime has a secret police. They have a secret police, Reid said, believing that she's making some brilliant statement. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having abortion. They also oppress women. Reid, who was fired, by the way, from MSNBC, when it was still called MSNBC, opened by clarifying she wasn't arguing the Iranian regime is not bad, but rather placing the U.S. on a similar moral level. She also claimed Iran has the highest rate of women in STEM fields. Reid argued that, so it's better for women in Iran. Keep that in mind. Reid argued the U.S. is kicking women out of the military and universities, making it harder for them to work in science after the rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates. So we're marginally better. That's an exact quote from Joy Reid in reference to the United States, I guess, v. Iran. We are marginally better, and we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right? We get told, particularly when it comes to Arabs and Muslims and Africans, that people are just diabolically evil for no reason. That they do things because they hate our freedoms, Reid said. But it turns out there's a lot of reasons Iran should hate us. We took their freedom, and we don't get told that. We took their freedom, we don't get told that. Well, that's the mindset that we are dealing with. Let's go through some media hits real quick. According to the Asian Times, Iran may be where the U.S.-led world order ends. We may no longer be in power because of this 18 to 19-day war. Now we learn the taking out of Iran's top national security official and de facto leader, Ali Larijani, who was a true insider, according to the headline, and the regime's public face, his killing could prolong the war. So taking out the top national security official and de facto leader of Iran could prolong the war, could make it worse. I mean, the way these people are talking in the media, we shouldn't have taken out any of their leaders, and we shouldn't have, who was it that said the other day, we shouldn't have went after the nuclear bomb because they're going to get it anyway. Just give up. Throw your hands up as a proud Americans, throw your hands up and say, no, let Iran do what they want. Get that nuclear weapon, aim it at us, aim it at our allies. So now CNN tells us Ali Larijani was a true insider in the Iranian regime's public face. His killing could prolong the war, according to Tim Lister. Okay, and here's a headline just to show you how bad the media has become. We know that Iran wanted to get a nuclear weapon. They've always said death to America. They've killed how many American soldiers? The proxies have killed how many American soldiers? Well, according to CNN, and this is where you may finally draw the line and change your position on Trump, Iran's chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz threatens India's beloved samosas and chai. So your samosas may be off the menu, and your chai may be lacking its usual aroma. There you go. That is the media that we are dealing with. But we're going to wrap up our discussion on Iran with a couple of just quick opinion pieces. Oh, man, we have so much here about New York. We'll get to it. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Precision, control, trust. Young's Tires is where performance meets the road. Michelin high-performance tires are built for exacting standards. That's why installation has to be right every time. Young's Tires, because at speed, details matter.
It's championship in March
at our Declaration of Deals event. Right now at Chilson Wilcox, save $10,000 on Ram 1500 during Truck Month. Choose from 25 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokees on the lot. Save $8,800. Or get 0% for 60 months or no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of loyalty and conquest offers, plus $2,000 in sell-down bonus cash. Declaration of Deals Championship and March event, now at Chilson Wilcox. Don't miss it. Hurry in today before the buzzer sounds.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today, and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to. Seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, giving you an update on what we believe, well, we know now is being reported a structure fire on Wall Street here in Corning. We saw the smoke. You heard the sirens earlier. So that is the information we have for you as of now. You see a little bit of that smoke still coming through in the skies. If we find out anything more of this breaking story, we will let you know. Let's go to some viewer comments. James Carville is the Jim Cramer of Democrat politics. I like that. Comment from a different viewer. If the fire starts to get close, at least you're close to the door. Make sure you grab vital equipment as you leave. Maybe you'll be able to still broadcast from home. LOL. We want, Frankly Speaking, to keep on going. Well, thank you for your concern, but I think we should be okay. Comment from a different viewer. Took Iran's freedom. How? Read how? Please clarify how we did this. Can't wait to hear her her unsubstantiated response to that question, though I don't watch the show. So yes, I will. Sorry, I got cut off there. Weird. I will, if she says anything. I mean, that's just the kind of rhetoric. That's why she's not on. She wasn't good enough for MSNBC. I mean, my goodness. That tells you all you need to know. Okay. According to a recent poll from Rasmussen, the MAGA movement, the Republicans in general, overwhelmingly back Trump's Iran Epic Fury. Because that Operation Epic Fury, the Rasmussen poll found that 61% of likely voters say the military operation against Iran has been successful so far, including 35% who describe it as very successful. See, they know there is still the support here. And that's why you're starting to see the Joe Kents trying to undermine the message. They're trying, and listen, it is a propaganda machine. I'm amazed myself at, I go to 5-6 different outlets in the morning. I go through more throughout the day. But to read what could only be described as propaganda, if you only focused on one or two of the outlets I went to, and I won't name specific names, they're kind of the cast of characters that you already know, but if you went to that, you would think this was not only probably the longest war we've ever been involved in with the most casualties ever, that it is spiraling out of control and we have no chance. But then you read between the lines with the live updates and you see the actual reporting of how many leaders we've taken out, how much of their infrastructure, and it's frustrating to watch. Lindsey, sorry folks, there is that fire going on in Wall Street. Senator Lindsey Graham criticized the media's coverage leading up to and during the war with Iran. He called the conflict a nightmare for the media, which he said is reluctant to praise Trump's actions, specifically his efforts to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Quote, he saved the world from a nuclear-armed Ayatollah. Nobody will say this in the mainstream media because it justifies what Trump did. Mr. President finished the job. We're very, very close. And if we do this right, peace breaks out. Saudi Arabia will recognize Israel when Iran is defanged. Our goal is to take this terror regime and defang it so we can have real peace in the Middle East. We're so close to that moment. Now, according to Rebecca Grant, there is 5 bold moves to crush the Iran threat now. Now, do I want to go through all this? Okay, here they are. Maritime Moving Target Indicator. As seen in the Caribbean, the U.S. Navy has Maritime surveillance technologies blend visual heat detection and subtle radar shifts to cover wide areas or drill down on specific targets. Maritime moving target indicators on planes like the Navy's P-8 and MQ-4C, a high-altitude drone with a 130-foot wingspan, are normally used to keep tabs on China's Navy. They know how to cut through the coastline clutter of radar return and atmospheric distortion and find an IRGC small boat still in the strait. We need air power, mine countermeasure ships, underwater drones, and finally, the Marines. Global shipping does not turn on a dime. Vessels are on precise schedules down to the minute for entering and departing harbors. A rerouting decision takes time to correct. Still, I have no doubt that in a matter of days, shipping traffic will ramp up with the U.S. in control of the Strait of Hormuz, and China will just have to watch. Another piece from Afrat Lacter saying we need to seize or neutralize Karg Island. We need a ground invasion of Fortress Iran. We needed pointed ops to secure their uranium. And there we are. That was their reason. Now, the Post editorial board says, with friends like this, one real virtue of the Iran war is how it exposes once hidden disloyalties. That goes for the various cranks on the right we considered the other day. Most prominently, podcaster Tucker Carlson, formerly evicted from MAGA by President Trump, and sadly now claiming the CIA is out to frame him. Other big-ish rightly names, Steve Bannon, Megyn Kelly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, are also denouncing Operation Epic Fury, marginally undermining a mission that has strong support among GOP voters and even more so among MAGA ones. There's not so much dividing the right, in other words, as declaring themselves unbalanced or perhaps over-reliant on a fringe audience for their clicks. A far bigger deal are the U.S. allies declining Trump's call for help, even if just symbolic, to open the Strait of Hormuz. Even though little oil or natural gas flows there to America, both are vital to the global markets. Europeans and others are now scrambling for rocks to hide beneath to depend on. This is not our war. We have not started it, said German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. It's never been envisioned to be a NATO mission, said UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Trump's not asking for help in the war. He's suggesting that countries that benefit from oil and gas that goes through the strait should help get it flowing again. Much as many of these same nations did join in NATO's Operation Ocean Shield and the European Union's Operation Atlanta to counter Somali piracy a decade or two back, with the navies of India and China playing an important role too. Then again, most of our European allies have let their navies shrink to almost nothing since then, with Starmer's Britain especially pathetic. Such cowardice now is a reminder of just how impotent these countries have become. As Trump fumed on Truth Social, it seems NATO has become a one-way street. We will protect them, but they will do nothing for us, or even for themselves, for that matter. Since they're at risk now, thanks to their climate cult foolishness, shunning fossil fuel extraction and even shutting nuclear plants left them utterly at the mercy of the flow of foreign gas and oil. More of their governments, especially the left-wing ones, are even more captive to increasingly powerful Muslim voting blocs after enormous waves of immigration and failed attempts at societal integration. This is a global problem. If ever there was one, it needs a global response. All right, we're going to move on to New York State issues because we have a couple that I'm going to have to breeze through. Oh, Rich Lowry does say, freeing the Strait of Hormuz is America's burden to bear. Guarding the safe passage of commerce has been a core Anglo-American commitment for a couple of centuries, with the baton of naval leadership passing from the British to the United States around World War II. And it goes through kind of the history of this. Rich Lowry does, who normally does a good job at that. In the Strait of Hormuz right now, peaceful shipping has largely disappeared, while we are deploying an unbelievably mighty Navy. If our forces can't restore order and free navigation, it will represent a significant failure of a traditional pillar of U.S. power. All right, when we come back, we are going to talk about New York State issues quickly, and it ties in when we talked about the oil there. I want to get to a couple things. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, the Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. LeCom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
And then man didn't hire William Mattar and settled for a low-ball offer. Ooh.
Bill, that's really not that scary.
Really? It gives me the chills. I mean, at William Mattar, we only handle motor vehicle accident cases, and they should have called us.
Dealing with big insurance doesn't have to be scary. Rideshare truck, motorcycle, car, only call William Mattar.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. Comment from Rick, who writes in, "Good morning, Frank." Good morning, Rick. "Poor Donald. No one will help him open up the Strait of Hormuz. Wonder why? Because he always backs himself into a corner, then cries for help. And most of all, he treats everyone on the planet like dirt, then expects help." When did that happen? Well, everyone is sick of Trump and his Trump ways. Everyone. No one to blame but yourself, Donald. No one is involved in the planning process up front. What's the plan? No Congress involvement, not NATO, not the UN, only... I understand your concept, Rick. Let me skip over the names because it just doesn't help your point. I mean, that's the reason why I skip over them so often. I'll say what you put in this in a minute. Trump is pretty cocky about Cuba, given that he can't get a rowboat through the Strait of Hormuz right now. He is a madman. By the way, those Chinese cartoons about Donald are true. Donald the dimwit are true and hilarious. Okay, this is what, let me dissect this point, Rick. I'm not sorry for the cute names I have for Trump and Pete. I just figure if Trump can make up names for everyone, I ought to be able to get a little creative as long as I keep it clean and have those pet names broadcast, just like Donald's are. He deserves it. Here's the problem I have with it. It's not a kind of a two-way street at this point. There's a lot of people that have gotten mad at me from the right on this program for not reading their comments word for word because and you can blame me all you want. I think when people change their political opponents' names, like Obama was a big one, or D-Rump or whatever it was, or T-Rump, it just takes away the argument. Like, we're trying to have a kind of a conversation here. I mean, if we want to make it a two-way street, and I read just exactly what the other side says, Rick, you're going to see how that just keeps going down a rabbit hole. You want to keep something? I will. I'll read some of them, but sometimes they're just a little bit too cringeworthy for me to feel like saying. I'm sorry. You can call them cute, they are to you and your supporters. I dig it. Just not for this broadcast. But please keep sending them along, and I will do the best I can to read some of them. Okay, let's see. New York State issues. Palmisano. Oh no. I had to mention this, and we'll have comments from Phil in a second. But this just ties in with our last segment. New York is making its poorest residents pay for a political fantasy. This is by Dan Doyle. He owns a fracking company. The Cuomo administration banned shale fracking back in 2014, bowing to the noise of fractivists. Remember them? Hochul kept the ban and doubled down. The result? Energy poverty for the people who can least afford it. 26% of New York City children live in poverty. Statewide, 2.7 million residents. Politicians respond with more taxation and finger-pointing at the feds. But the real answer is sitting right underneath their feet. Trillions of cubic feet of natural gas untapped, while Albany digs the hole deeper with bad policy and fills it with tax dollars. The numbers tell the story. A 2025 Heritage Foundation study found that New York's fracking ban has created a wealth gap of $11,000 per person. That's $27,000 per family, compared to Pennsylvania neighbors just across the border where fracking is allowed. Before the ban, those countries were economic equals. Since then, Pennsylvania landowners have been collecting thousands of dollars per acre in lease payments and a 16% cut off the top of all gas sales. New Yorkers get nothing for their rich reserves. It's state-sponsored pauperism. If fracking were allowed, New York would receive billions in royalty payments. Tax receipts would swell from high-paying jobs and well-capitalized drillers. The tide from those trillions of cubic feet of natural gas would lift all boats. I know this because I frack wells in New York. Mine might be the last company still standing. Over 2 decades, my company has fracked thousands of wells. No underground water contamination, no low birth rates, no nosebleeds, no apocalypse, nothing. Because fracking is safe. The data backs it up. But data deniers won't have it, and so neither will all the state's neediest residents. The green alternative isn't clean. It's just cleaner looking. Renewable mandates come at the cost of massive land use, strip mining, toxic battery production, and a waste stream all their own. And every solar farm and wind turbine still has to be backstopped by natural gas or coal when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. Albany knows this, but presses on anyway, leaving New Yorkers with residential electric costs 40% above the national average and natural gas prices 23% higher. The state imports nearly 80% of its energy, much of it from Pennsylvania. It's the equivalent of bumming cigarettes instead of buying them. The smoke still fills your lungs. Cuomo and Hochul are masters of importing energy and exporting opportunity. They bent before an unkind ideology at the expense of their poorest constituents. Natural gas is the lowest hanging fruit in New York that it has. It's right there. And this is still the before scenario. When AI data centers turn energy into a full-blown battleground, and they will, New York's self-inflicted power shortage won't just hurt the poor people. It will hand the future to whoever has the gold. Governor Hochul, the fanatics you've been appeasing don't pay those utility bills. Your constituents do. Open the taps. I thought that was such a good piece. I had to get that to you this morning. All right, we got to take a break. Then we're going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Google reviews rank Ferrario Ram the highest customer experience Ram dealer in our area. Returning Stellantis lessee, lease a 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn with Hurricane engine or Hemi V8. Just $499 per month. $19.99 due at signing. Only $499 a month and it's yours. With America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Check out all your Ram favorites during Ram Truck Month.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Visit Ferrario Ram in Elmira now.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2026 Nissan Sentra SV front-wheel drive sedan with no money down for only $299 a month for 39 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Hornell.
There, we are going to be seeing some sun out there today, and temperatures pushing above freezing for this time of year, still on the cool side of things, but 37. And then tonight back in the mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies. 40s are what we return to. Seasonable conditions on Thursday with afternoon showers and lingering rain potential Thursday night. Friday looking good for the spring equinox, a high of 50. Some wintry mix possible Friday night into the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. One last thing as we wrap up this hour, and we've covered so much on today's broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Mark writes in, what I don't get, all the oil coming in the U.S. to be refined in Texas, why are the prices so high? And furthermore, we need to be oil and fuel independent from Venezuela. Thank you very much. I just want to mention what Phil Palmisano had to say when he called yesterday for bail reform and sanctuary policies. Now, Phil will be our guest on Friday. There is a law that's Lakin's Law, which would increase public safety and hold criminals accountable. Specifically, it would require law enforcement and courts to notify U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement when an arrested or convicted person is a non-citizen. reinstate harsher penalties, including deportation consequences for certain crimes, and repeal the Protect Our Courts Act. Palmisano saying the role of government should be to protect law-abiding citizens, not dangerous and violent criminals. But unfortunately, under one-party control in Albany, this has not been the case. There's no logical reason why people who are in our country illegally and in possession of Molotov cocktails should be released back onto our streets. Yet it happened. We need to pass Lakin's Law. How much longer do we have to subject New Yorkers to violence before we decide charges or that changes must be made? If Democrats are serious about public safety, they would join us and pass this important piece of legislation. Thank you to the Assemblyman. Now, Bruce Blakeman, who is running for governor against Kathy Hochul, should be doing anything he can to get his name front and center with voters before Election Day. And I believe this is coming from the Daily News. But an appearance with Utah-based YouTuber Stephen Gardner seems like a stretch even for a candidate trailing by 20 points in recent polls. Blakeman made a remote appearance on Gardner's channel earlier this month to press his case for why he should be governor. The internet plea was intended to boost Blakeman's MAGA credentials. Wow. And ask for campaign cash. Gardner has written several financial help books and has more than 2.1 million followers on the channel, where he has posted over 3,100 videos on UFOs, stimulus checks, Democrats, world leaders, globalists, and much more, using AI photos with explosions and headlines like "This is evil." Anyway, I don't want to go with what Blakeman said. I just don't understand this. Why are we doing podcasts in Utah? All right. Environmental advocates are open to settling cases over climate change. According to Ezra Bitterman from Albany Times-Union, Governor Hochul has repeatedly pointed to an October ruling from a state Supreme Justice, and the reason energy costs will shoot up in the next 5 years if the state legislature won't agree to her desire to extend the greenhouse gas reduction deadlines of the New York Climate Act. Well, we'll watch out for that. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Oh my goodness, we move fast. Tomorrow we're going to hear from Elmira College about their upcoming dance marathon. That is in support. They do it every year for the Children's Miracle Network. So we're going to find out all about that and how you can help. Then on Friday, it is Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So we look forward to talking with him. We've talked to him since he's become ranker on the Ways and Means Committee. But we'll talk to him, and you can get your questions in as well. But that does it for us today. I hope that you will join us. We're getting a report that it was actually the fire on Wall Street here in Corning that is ongoing was actually an e-bike charger exploding, is what is being reported. We'll have more information for you tomorrow. But thank you to everyone who joined us, and join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.